That day, Dora misunderstood me. She was sure that I had pushed her sweetheart, Jack, down the stairs. She was furious and decided to teach me a lesson. I was locked in the basement, and the 4 dark years became a time of reflection in her eyes. She invited 2 cruel women, whose only mission was to turn me from a living man into a submissive and docile good boy. I went through extreme torture. My tendons in my hands and feet were broken, my body was ravaged, and my face was utterly disfigured. One morning 4 years later, Dora finally remembered me and ordered me to be released from the dungeon. But at that moment, my heart was dead. I could no longer love her. I stayed in the dim environment of the basement for too long, and finally walked out of the heavy iron door. The dazzling sunlight made me close my eyes involuntarily. When I opened my eyes again, the scene in front of me made my heart beat faster instantly. Dora, still as noble and cool as ever. She stood there, wearing a high-end dress, as if she was far away from my world. I stood in front of her, my body was dirty, my hair was messy, and I smelled bad. I felt a strong sense of uneasiness in my heart, and I lowered my head and whispered, "Mo, Dora." She looked up at me and said coldly, "Raise your head." I trembled and slowly raised my head. She was still the beautiful woman in front of me. However, when she saw the scar on my face, she showed a trace of astonishment. Your face, what's wrong with you?" Her voice trembled slightly. I lowered my eyes. My heart was broken. The pain in my heart was almost unbearable. The bodyguard standing next to her whispered, "David scratched himself accidentally." She turned to look at me and asked, "Is that true?" I clenched my hands tightly with thousands of words in my heart, but I couldn't say a word. It was she who ordered the inhuman torture that I suffered, leaving scars on my face that could not be healed. I remember once, they planned to carve the word slave on my face. I struggled desperately, but the result was this unspeakable mark. Dora didn't ask any more questions and turned to walk to the car parked nearby. I followed her, walking so slowly that it annoyed me. I had broken my limbs and flexors, so I couldn't walk as fast as she did. She looked back at me, her voice filled with impatience. "You're so slow? Don't you want to leave? Do you believe me? I'll throw you back to the basement?" I panicked instantly and shook my head hastily. No, please don't send me back to the basement." She sneered and seemed satisfied with my reaction. Her tone softened. "It seems that the decision I made back then was the right one. You have indeed learned your lesson now." I suppressed the bitterness in my chest, but I secretly decided in my heart that I would never give her a cent again. I opened the car door and got in. The car started, and the scenery outside the window rapidly receded, but she in the car was still as perfect as ever, as if there was an insurmountable gap between her and me. I thought she might love me, until that man, Jack, came back into her life, and she told me that it was just a family arrangement, and she didn't love me at all. It was not until that moment that I realized that all my efforts were in vain. For years ago, Jack came back and falsely accused me of pushing him, causing him to be seriously injured and hospitalized. Dora was furious and locked me in the basement to make me reflect on myself. I realized that the lessons of those 4 years were nothing but a nightmare she carefully planned. Suddenly, Dora frowned and sniffed the air in disgust. "What's that smell?" I looked down and found that my arm was bleeding. When I left the basement, the vicious guards warned me not to talk nonsense after I came out, and they hit me hard with a chair. I saw blood dripping on the seat, and I squatted down in panic and wiped it with my sleeve. "I'm sorry, Dora. I made a mess on your seat. I'll clean it right away," I whispered. She looked at me coldly, her brows furrowed. "David, how did you become like this?" I smiled bitterly. The pain in my heart almost swallowed me. It was her. She pushed me into this abyss with her own hands. And now, she actually asked me why it became like this? Isn't this exactly what she wanted? After wiping the seat clean, I didn't sit back down, but curled up carefully in the corner. My body still smelled of blood, and I was afraid that the smell would disgust her. I didn't dare to move rashly, and every move was filled with fear of her. Dora looked at me with a puzzled look, frowning slightly. "David, didn't you always like to stick to me before? Why are you so far away from me now?" I didn't know how to answer her. The scenes that I had imagined countless times at night now turned into unspeakable pain. For years had passed, and all the memories and emotions were destroyed. Too. Why? In the past, I had hoped that she would appear like she did in the past and take me away from the darkness of the basement in countless dark nights. But she never showed up. That night, she chose to believe Jack's words threw me in the dungeon, and abandoned me from then on. Gradually, I became numb, and my longing for her became weaker and weaker. Whenever I tried to miss her, the pain in my heart was like a knife cutting into my heart. Every day, I was subjected to nothing but cruel torture and insults. My body was already overwhelmed, and every inch of my skin was covered with wounds. They forced me to bark like a dog. How dare a loser like you like Dora? Their ridicule pierced my heart like a needle. You are just a dog. Stop dreaming, or I will beat you to death. Do you hear me? I was beaten all over, but I could only cry and surrender. Every time I was beaten to unconsciousness, no one cared whether I lived or died. The basement became my hell, and I no longer had the courage to love her. That kind of pain was deeply buried in my heart and became a wound that could not be healed. I know, I've learned my lesson. Thinking of this, I bowed my head and apologized softly. I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. We arrived at the villa. As soon as I got off the car, I saw Jack walking down from upstairs with a smug smile on his face. David, welcome home. He spoke in a friendly tone, but the teasing in his eyes was not concealed. But how did you become like this? You must have suffered a lot. Don't blame Shinru. She just wants to train you. I didn't respond, feeling heartbroken. Dora seemed a little dissatisfied and glared at me. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear Jack talking to you? I shuddered and fell to my knees involuntarily. I'm sorry, Dora. Don't be angry. I won't do it again next time. Jack looked down at me with satisfaction, then turned to Dora and said, Shinru, don't be so mean to David. Dora's tone became soft, but with a hint of coldness. Jack, you are too kind. Don't forget that if he hadn't pushed you down the stairs, you wouldn't have been lying in the hospital for so many days. Her words were like a knife, cutting into my heart. For years ago, I tried to defend myself and tell her that I didn't push Jack. But now I don't want to say anything. No matter how I explain, it's futile. She no longer loves me, and all my efforts have become meaningless. Dora looked at me and ordered, take him to a bath, he stinks. The nanny stepped forward, looking embarrassed. But I accidentally threw away all of David's clothes before. Why not let him wear the maid's clothes? Jack snorted coldly, his eyes somewhat displeased. David is Shinru's husband in name only. How can you let him wear servant's clothes? I immediately said, it's okay. I can wear it. In the days in the basement, they often stripped me naked and hung me up, mocking me as a dog who didn't deserve to wear clothes. Now, I no longer care about this humiliation. The servant threw the clothes in my face, pinched his nose, and said angrily, don't dirty my clothes. I lowered my head, feeling deeply humiliated. This was my home, but now I was living under someone else's roof. Even a servant could ignore me like this. I spent a long time bathing, and my body was covered with scars of varying ages. The scent of the shower gel could not cover up the pain on my skin. Every time the wound touched the water, it would sting violently. When going downstairs, Dora's voice came from hell. David, do you think you are still the eldest son of the Shun family? Do you know how long we have been waiting for you? I lowered my head and apologized tremblingly. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were waiting for me to eat. When she saw the scar on my face, a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. Come over and have dinner. I hurried over, sat down, lowered my head, and tears fell silently into the bowl. For years of hellish life have made me lose my loved ones and everything I once had. The home I once owned has gone bankrupt and completely ruined. Now I am homeless. I reached for the food on my plate, my fingers trembling as they touched the food. Dora suddenly shouted angrily, David, are you a dog? How can you eat like this? Are you trying to disgust us on purpose? Her words were like poison, making me tremble all over. 3. Her roar made me realize that this was not a basement. I said at a loss. No, I didn't mean to. I just haven't gotten used to eating with chopsticks yet. In the basement, if I wanted to eat, I had to compete with the dog for food. At first I resisted and would rather starve than snatch the food. But when they saw that I was disobedient, they beat me with sticks and forced me to snatch food from the dogs. My legs were broken, so I could only crawl over to compete with the dog for food. I was bitten all over by the dog. In the end, I stuffed the food I snatched into my mouth with tears in my eyes and swallowed it down while enduring the stench. If you lose the fight, not only will you have nothing to eat, but you will also have to bark like a dog to please them. Jack shook Dora's hand, pretending to be understanding. David may not be used to it after just coming out of the basement. Give him some time. Dora thought the food on the table was dirty, so she ordered the servants in a cold voice, remove the food from this table. Although I was very scared, I still stretched out my hands to protect the food on the table and spoke in a trembling voice. No, don't remove it. Just let me eat it. I haven't had such delicious and clean meals for a long time, and I don't want to waste them. Dora looked at me with disgust. David, you are disgusting. After saying that, she stood up and pulled Jack out of the restaurant. Let's go out to eat. After they left, I ate with big mouthfuls, wishing I could stuff it all into my mouth. Suddenly, my stomach started to churn, and I quickly got up and went to the bathroom. Lying on the toilet, I vomited out everything I had just eaten. I remember one time, they beat me so badly that I was in a coma for 2 days and 2 nights. They were afraid that I would die and it would be difficult to explain to Dora, so they called a doctor to treat me. The doctor told me that my body was in bad condition and that I would not live long if I didn't go to the hospital for treatment. So he asked me to be mentally prepared. I stood up shakily and looked at the person in the mirror. My face was as pale as paper and had an ugly scar, just like a ghost. I thought I might be dying. The next day, Dora brought me a suit. Put on your suit and come with me to the dinner tonight. Dinner party? Before the incident in my family, I often attended various dinner parties, but now I am no longer suitable for such occasions. Dora, can I not go? You can take Jack with you. Dora got furious when she heard me reject her. David, if the client didn't value family life, do you think I would take you there? Look at the way you look now. You are just embarrassing yourself. My body trembled, remembering that she had the same expression when she misunderstood me and pushed Jack down the stairs 4 years ago. I was so scared that I knelt on the ground and kowtowed reflexively. Dora, don't be angry. I want to go. I will be obedient. Please don't send me back to the basement. Please. Dora was stunned for a moment, then continued. I'm telling you, behave yourself. If you ruin my project, I won't forgive you. Don't worry, I will behave well. I didn't want to be sent back to the basement and have to please Dora. In the evening, there was a banquet with great feasting. I stood next to Dora, wearing a baggy suit. I no longer had any trace of my former elegance and handsomeness, and looked like a clown. She had it made to my size 4 years ago, but I've lost a lot of weight, so it doesn't fit. Dora asked me to toast the clients, and I raised my glass. The client looked at my hand in surprise. David, your fingers. I froze for a moment. In the basement, they often punished me with all kinds of props and pulled out all my fingernails, causing my fingers to be severely deformed now. I stammered, my hand was injured. The customer nodded.